Let me tell you something: if someone ever shows up to your house waving a stack of papers and talking like they're judge, jury, and executioner, you better believe something bigger's about to blow. That's exactly what happened the day Patricia Thornfield, a neighborhood self-proclaimed queen, pulled up to my cabin like she was leading a SWAT team, yelling about violations and community standards, with this smug grin like she already owned the place. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that tearing down that wall wouldn't just expose my living room. It'd expose her. Because right there on my table, in plain sight, were documents that would unravel everything she'd been hiding. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up a sec. 3 months before the Seckers rode into my driveway, I'd rented this old cabin on the edge of Maybrook Heights, weathered siding, creaky porch, but it had just enough charm to feel like a fresh start. After the divorce, after losing my job at Chem Industries, I needed somewhere I could hit reset. Somewhere my daughter Emma could visit on weekends and still believe her dad was doing okay. We built pillow forts, made pancakes, laughed like nothing had broken, even though deep down I was still trying to glue myself back together. Then that Tuesday happened. I was working on a translation gig, industrial chemistry manuals, nothing fancy, when I heard the roar of engines outside. I looked out the window, and I swear, it looked like an eviction mixed with a home invasion. White SUV up front, contractor trucks behind, and out steps Patricia Thornfield in her designer shoes and perfectly manicured wrath. She marched right up like I didn't even exist, looked me in the eye, and said, "This structure violates multiple HOA covenants. We are beginning immediate remediation." Now, I'd heard stories. Everyone in Millbrook Heights gets the Patricia experience. She's the type who knocks on your door with a clipboard and a smile that feels like a threat. But this was coordinated. The contractors didn't even wait. They started unloading saws like they were building a gallows, and I realized this wasn't about code violations. This was personal. "Patricia, this is a rental. I followed every clause in the lease. Minor repairs, nothing more." She didn't even blink. "Please," she scoffed. "An unemployed divorce playing house in a rotting cabin. Your word drags this neighborhood down." That one stung. She said it loud enough that even the squirrels in the trees got offended. But then it got worse. The saws started. They weren't just making noise, they were tearing down the eastern wall, the one facing away from the road. Which, funny enough, was also the wall that would expose my desk, the one covered in sensitive documents I'd been translating for a Ukrainian research group. My laptop sat open. Right in view. And the look on Patricia's face when that wall fell, it wasn't anger or satisfaction. It was relief. Like she'd found exactly what she came looking for. She stepped inside like she owned the place, didn't even ask. Looked at my papers and smiled. "Quite the reading material, Mr. Torres." Now, that's when I knew something was off. Because those weren't exactly bedtime stories. They were complex document formulas, chemical breakdowns, stuff that could go over most people's heads. But Patricia? She read the titles like she understood them. Like she'd seen them before. Then she said it casually, like she was talking about weather. "I've done some digging on you. Divorced. Lost your job. Odd clientele. Dear Molev Petrov, for example." That name made my stomach drop. Petrov was a chemist I'd worked with, remotely paid well, very technical. But now I wondered, had I just translated documents for a chemical weapons dealer? Patricia kept going, her voice soft but sharp. "This cabin isn't going to work for you much longer. People have plans for it. And those plans don't involve a translator with a conscience." She left, just like that, stepping over the debris like a queen leaving a conquered kingdom. And me? I stood there wondering how my peaceful hideout had turned into a war zone. That night, I started digging into her Turns out, Patricia was the widow of James Stormfield, the founder of a mid-sized chemical firm. He died suddenly from get this food poisoning, just weeks after pushing back on certain Eastern European deals. His company sold. His wife rich. And the contracts still active, with one key client, Dr. Petrov. That's when the dots connected. My translations, Petrov's funding, Stormfield Chemicals, it was a cover. And I was smack in the middle of it. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. The next day, I got a text, "We need to talk. 2 p.m., Maple Street Cafe. Come alone." Now, if that doesn't sound like the start of a spy thriller, I don't know what does. I went. Couldn't not. At the cafe, this man agent David Chen, FBI, sits down across from me like we're old friends. Slides me a card and a tiny recorder. "We've been watching Petrov," he said. "And Patricia. We think her husband was working with us before he died. We believe she killed him. And we need your help to take the whole operation down. Let me tell you, being asked to go undercover isn't something you ever expect when you're just trying to pay rent on a cabin." But I said yes. That night, they wired me up and handed me a folder with a fake backstory: former CIA analyst, chemical weapons expert, morally flexible. It was close enough to my real background to be believable. Next day, I showed up at Patricia's mansion big enough to host the union. I pitched her the story, that I'd worked with the government, that I knew what Petrov's compounds were really for, and that I was willing to be useful for a price. She bought it. The next 48 hours were a blur of surveillance, setups, and one final meeting at her place. Petrov himself showed up, all cool and quiet, with 2 armed goons flanking him. He quizzed me about his compound's binary agents, delivery systems, civilian targets, and I played the part like I was born for it. Then his guy by the window noticed a van outside. Radio equipment. They panicked. Guns came out. Petrov screamed, "He's a spy." And just like that, sirens. SWAT. FBI crashing through every window like a Hollywood raid. Patricia tried to escape through a side window, got stuck halfway like a cartoon villain. It was poetic. And me? I just sat there, hands up, watching it all unfold like a man who'd survived the hurricane by holding onto the eye of the storm. 3 months later, the cabin was repaired, the wall reinforced, and Emma was back on the couch beside me, safe. Patricia got 25 years. Petrov got life. And me? I got a quiet gig consulting for the FBI, enough money to buy the place outright, and a wooden sign outside that says, "Welcome. Please don't drill walls." The funny thing is, Patricia thought she was cleaning up the neighborhood. What she really did was burn down her entire empire because she underestimated a guy who'd already lost everything and had nothing left to lose. So if you ever find yourself being pushed around by someone with a clipboard and a power complex, document everything, trust your gut, and never forget. Sometimes the quietest guy in the room is the one carrying the loudest truth. Now tell me, was Patricia just a criminal hiding behind HOA rules, or was she a symptom of something deeper? Let's talk about it in the comments. Right and wrong gets real blurry in communities like this.